What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm back with another video, this time on the Superduke. Finally, I'm riding this thing, and I may be riding it for, if not the last time, then one of the last times. But stay tuned for that. That's going to be another video for you guys. For today's video, we're back with rating my bikes. If you guys didn't know, I started a little series not too long ago. Pretty much, I like rating out of 10 movies and stuff like that. If you guys have followed my Instagram and food and stuff like that, it's just a fun rating system. So I figured, like, since I enjoy doing that and you guys like bike reviews, why not do it with my super bikes or with bikes altogether. I also told you guys that if you have a cool bike that you want me to rate and review, and if you live nearby the area, then hit up my backup Instagram, K with 2 I's, or email me at mk98@gmail.com as well, and review one of your like cool bikes and rate it. I have my thoughts about it, but I don't know exactly where it ranks up until I do that rating system. And yeah, the rating system I feel like is also subject to change. Maybe someday I feel like a certain way about it, and then when I go back and then I think about the numbers, I'm like, yeah, maybe I should give this a little higher in comparison to the other bikes. But yeah, if you guys are unfamiliar with the rating system, I'll give you a review, and at the end of that review, and I just realized, because I rode the R1M in the rain, I forgot to clean this section right here, so it's all filthy. And yeah, we haven't done one with the R1M. We're supposed to do the R1M next, but as I said, because we might be getting rid of this bike soon, which I'll talk about in the next video, so subscribe to the channel. And I'm pretty sorry for the KTM fans. I'm bummed myself, but we might be selling more than even one bike today. So as I said, subscribe, stay tuned, and I just keep smacking my H2 wing. This is a heavy bike, and it's very tight in here. Oh man, this bike is fun. I kind of miss riding it. Let's start talking a little bit more about the Superduke. If you guys didn't know, this is, I believe, a 2022, not a 2023. They literally are exactly the same, 22 and 23, so I don't know which year it is. And the time I got it is like, it could have been either, I forgot. But yeah, it's either a 22 or a 23 1290 Superduke R Evo. So it has electronic suspension as well, since it's the Evo. It's the highest level Superduke you can get, pretty much. I know some of you guys told me that there is the double R Superduke, double R, I believe, which is like a track only variant, which looks really sick. But yeah, I would like to get that bike, but it's only in Europe. It's not in America, so that bike isn't really an option. I got this bike initially mainly because of you guys. This was the first bike that I get, like, highly because of what you guys requested. It's a bike that I thought was cool, but it's not a bike that I generally considered getting. Like, just the thought of it, it was like, you know what, it would be cool. I wanted a KTM, that's pretty much what it was. I wanted like an orange KTM, you know, representing KTM and all that. Ideally, I would have liked a super sport such as the RC8, but the RC8 is so dated. I think the last model they came out with that bike was like 2016, I want to say, or 2015 maybe, between 2015 to 2017, and it's very dated. They haven't updated it or anything. Might be even older, honestly. I don't think it's 17 at all. This is the newest, pretty much most updated KTM that they had, where it has like an LCD screen. It feels like, even with my cold tires, it feels pretty stable. Woo! And it still rips. This is the definition of a fun bike. Bike that you can ride around in the streets, ride around pretty much most places that you want. You can have fun without getting into too much trouble. If it was just like a normal guy that doesn't do social media and stuff like that, this would be an amazing bike. But unfortunately, as I was saying, I got this bike mainly because of you guys, and I think it was like, you know, the people that wanted me to get this bike comment a lot, but at the end of the day, it's not that many of you guys, so this bike does not perform well on the channel at all. That is mainly why I don't ride it as much, but every time I ride it, it's just such a joy. And I know if I get a full exhaust on it, or just like decat it, do a custom exhaust like what I did with the Rush, I would be in love with this thing. You guys already know I have to do that little pull here and there, because this bike is just, I don't know, it's just so fun. Like, the torque on it is kind of crazy. and it's such a smooth bike. It rides really nice. I definitely would say it rides a lot better than the MV Agusta, even though they look so identical. I was like, what is going on seeing double with these trucks? On a beautiful day like this, where I thought it was gonna be a lot colder, but it just feels beautiful. So this is like the perfect bike for such a ride, even though it's a little chilly. You just like, I don't know, like you feel the wind and all that. You sit higher up. Man, this bike is such a fun bike. The only thing is that, like, whenever I open my garage and I look at all my bikes, it's definitely not my first option. It's usually my last option, just because this bike is such an amazing bike. Don't get me wrong, I love this bike and I definitely want to keep it. But as you guys saw, I have 9 bikes in my garage, so you know. ZX6R. So as you guys know, I need to make some room, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But this bike just competes with all my other crazy bikes. That's why I rank so low. But let's get started with the video. One of the first things to talk about is the power. Obviously, this is not a top speed bike. It's crazy torquey. I know everyone's gonna comment, this is a bike that can beat a H2 off the line. Sure, if you can launch it really well, because it has like really good torque and all that. But let me tell you, if I do a pull with this in my H2, I bet I can keep up with this thing, because you know my H2 is lowered, it's set up a little bit better. So, and I have pretty decent experience with the H2. So if you can take off good, almost all leader super bikes are gonna be identical off the line. But as soon as you start getting like, you know, in higher speeds where you can actually put the power down and not fighting wheelies, the H2 is gonna decimate this thing. So I know a lot of you guys comment about Superduke and all of that, and that, like, you know, it's crazy off the line and all that. Yeah, sure, true, but that's kind of all it has. It has like a crazy torque off the line. That's pretty much it. It's crazy torquey. Everyone like raves about that. Extra track mode that you have on this thing just makes the throttle more sensitive, and that's why everyone's like, oh, this bike is crazy, just because it's on max throttle and it's super torquey, so it just comes up and it feels crazy rowdy, which is cool if you're trying to do wheelies and stuff, but not really usable besides that. You know, I mean, you don't want it to be that torquey. It's similar to kind of like the R1M and the H2. Both of these bikes on the highest power mode are just crazy fast that it doesn't even make sense for you to use them. It's like you can't use the first, second, third gear are all useless. If you just gun it in such a, like in the highest power mode, the wheels is going to come up, so it's kind of like pointless. You want a bike that you can control and take off really nicely with. Power is amazing. It has crazy acceleration, but it's not fast. It doesn't have top speed. When we do higher speeds, the bike gets wobbly and all, so it's not really the best. As you guys see right here, the bike gets crazy wobbly and shaky in higher speeds. Yeah, I can upgrade the stabilizer that it came with, which is right down here, but at the end of the day, this bike is not designed to do high speeds and stuff like that, but it can still hold its own. So with the speed, it's definitely going to get like a high rating just because of that crazy torque that it has. But overall, obviously, it's not going to compare to like some of the other bikes that we already rated, such as the M1000 Fireblade or the Ape. These bikes are just next level. It's super sports versus a naked bike. As a naked bike, from all the naked bikes I've ridden, this bike is, in my opinion, the most fun to ride. It has the most character, so it'll definitely rank really high on the character aspect. It's going to rank really high on the sound because of that twin engine. I mean, the fact that this is just a slip-on and it sounds this good right now, with all the pops and burbles and all that, it just, like, I don't know, like, it just makes it so much fun. If I was a stunt rider, or if I was someone that loves to do drifting and stuff like that, this bike would be the best bike for it. And I got this bike in the mindset of like, hey, this will get me into this type of stuff. But at the end of the day, that's like a whole new thing that I need to get into, which will take a lot of time and effort, and it's not really my content. So maybe one day in the future. When it comes to the electronics of this bike honestly surprised me with the electronics. They're pretty great. They work really well. I was definitely bummed KTM sells you this tech pack or whatever that I wasn't even told about when I got this bike. So that was definitely like a big downside for me, and you guys have heard me talk about it a lot. When I first got this bike, I was like, how come this is the top bike from KTM, the best bike done to make, and it doesn't even come with a working quick shifter? It needs to come with that stuff, even if they just add it in the price. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not cool to charge an extra $1,000 after you buy it and you don't even know that you need it, and you think this bike is this price. Like, if they told me on the spot, I would have just, you know, gotten that tech pack, but I didn't even know about it. So the fact that I have to go back to the dealership just for them to put a software update and unlock it, you know, that just rubbed me the wrong way and made me kind of like not like KTM as much. Instead of this bike being MSRP, I think at like, I don't know, 20,000, just make it 21 and that's it. I don't think people would like really care that much about the extra $1,000 if it did come with not only the quick shifter and all that, but also all the other settings that you can unlock over here, which such as like that track mode and I think different suspension settings and all that type of stuff. So for the tech, it's gonna rank high, but because of that, I'll definitely have to drop it a little bit here and there. And this bike shifts really smoothly. It's really easy to ride. I would say, I know a lot of you guys go crazy about how this bike is all wild and crazy, but in comparison to all the other bikes that I have, this is like a piece of cake to ride. I call this like the big boy Grom, because in comparison to like some of my other bikes, this is just so easy and chill. And yeah, it's torquey, but if you know like throttle control, it's really not that crazy as people make it sound. But the fact that you have all these different modes doesn't make it, oh, this is just a hard bike to ride. You have a taller center of gravity, so it's pretty easy to like throw around. It feels super light, even though it's one of my heaviest bikes. So definitely on the comfort category, it being a naked bike, it's a fair comparison between this and every other bike that I have. This is gonna rank pretty high in the comfort category, because in my opinion, it's like a true naked bike. Like my Rush is definitely not nearly as comfortable as this, because since that's the only other naked bike that I have. Very upright, your hands are in a good position. Everything about it is comfortable. I changed the seat to like the sport seat from KTM, which more narrow because it's kind of like a performance seat, which gives me like better kind of like feel and grab and control over the bike. We got to talk a little bit about the MPG. This bike by far has the best MPG. This bike has been dyno tuned. Obviously it's not like fully straight piped, as I said, so that will affect, because you know, if you have more airflow, then you need more gas as well, make more power, blah blah blah. But yeah, it still has a fuel gauge right here, and also at the same time the MPG is like crazy on it. Like usually by the time we did this ride with my H2, going to that shop and back, a little bit after that I was out of gas. So far, like going there, this barely took 1 bar. If you need to daily something, this is like the bike for you, you know what I mean? Unless I would say it is cold. If it's cold, I would like some, you know, fairing, some wind protection for me. But besides that, this bike just feels, I don't know, amazing. I'm not using this bike for what it's intended for. This bike is a hooligan bike. You need to take it to the canyons, you need to do wheels with it, you need to like drift with it and stuff like that. That's how you have the most fun with this bike. But as I said, this is not really my niche. This is not necessarily like the stuff that I enjoy doing the most. But for the stuff that it's intended for, this bike is just a 10 out of 10 when it comes to that. So handling, it feels like it would handle amazing, but same thing, minus points because they did send it with, it doesn't have a stabilizer, but the stabilizer, it's so front light, like this bike has no weight in the front. That's why it's so easy to pop this thing up and do wheelies with it and stuff like that. And it feels like insane because it's so torquey, and I feel like all the weight is back here, so it just wants to come up, which definitely makes it more shaky and wobbly, as you guys see right here. With the slightest, like, you know, it just, the whole bike starts shaking. But they do sell an upgraded stabilizer on the KTM website, so I'm like, why can't you just put the upgraded stabilizer since this is your top model, you know what I mean? I would say for modifications, it's pretty easy to modify. There's tons of parts online for this thing. I've put on so many parts on this thing, and I'm kind of bummed that I literally barely put 1,000 miles on it. Bought it brand new, barely put 1,000 miles on it, and barely use it, because as I said, whenever I ride it, I'm like, this is amazing, this is fun, I should ride it more. Yes, it could have had more stuff, but at the end of the day, it's, in my opinion, one of the best looking and at the same time one of the most fun leader bikes to ride, which is why it's definitely gonna like rank high. It just, hopefully one day maybe we'll get something a little bit better or a little more fun for this thing. And now we're gonna switch to me rating this bike out of 10 on all the scales and see where it ranks up against all my other bikes.